what has happened today is so important and so tragic and so wrong.
On the right is a woman called Chrystia Freeland. Now, she's not Ukrainian. She's from Canada. She's from Alberta, Canada. She spent the bulk of her career as a journalist working for Reuters and other news organizations like that, both in London and in Washington, where we spent quite a bit of time with her. And then she became the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada under Justin Trudeau. But here's the interesting thing. Just recently, Chrystia Freeland, who again is not a product of, she didn't grow up in Ukraine. She grew up in Canada and lived in London and Washington. Chrystia Freeland is somehow working for unelected President Zelenskyy in Ukraine, who himself is not really that Ukrainian. Grew up speaking Russian.
Get your Canadian federal politics right here. Smash the like, hit subscribe. If you feel like you have something to share, leave a comment below. We're always curious to hear what people have to say. That's it. Let's get right into the video.
And it's an amazingly instructive piece of videotape. Now, you will see and you will recognize immediately the Hungarian man on the left. That would be Mr. George Soros, one of the world's most successful financiers, I think, as he's euphemistically described, a guy who's bet against national currencies, really done nothing to make the world a better place or to improve the lives of individuals, has only sown chaos and hatred and violence, really for the length of his professional life, for whatever reason, whatever motive might be animating him. He is on the left. On the right is a woman called Chrystia Freeland. Now, she's not Ukrainian either. She's from Canada. She's from Alberta, Canada. She spent the bulk of her career as a journalist working for Reuters and other news organizations like that, both in London and in Washington, where we spent quite a bit of time with her. And then she became the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada under Justin Trudeau. And an economic poobah. And if you're interested in how well she did, well, you can just look up facts about the current state of the Canadian economy. Not very well. But here's the interesting thing. Just recently, Chrystia Freeland, who again is not a product of, she didn't grow up in Ukraine. She grew up in Canada and lived in London and Washington. Chrystia Freeland is somehow working for unelected President Zelenskyy in Ukraine, who himself is not really that Ukrainian. Grew up speaking Russian. He's a citizen of the world like she is, like they all are. But she's now an unpaid economic advisor to Ukraine. Unpaid. Right. Okay. They're divvying up the natural resources of a country they know will soon collapse, with no regard for the people who've been killed, of course. But here is Chrystia Freeland and George Soros 10 years ago talking about Ukraine, and in so doing, giving the game away. Watch this.
Maybe start with Greece. You've described it as an existential crisis.
Well, Ukraine was mishandled from the beginning by all parties concerned. And it got worse and worse. So actually, now the most constructive outcome is muddling through. But Ukraine is very different. And unfortunately, the European Union treats Ukraine as yet another Greece. And that is absolutely the wrong approach.
Okay, so why is it so wrong? I mean, from a distance, you could see a lot of similarities, right? You know, both countries celebrating Easter this weekend. They have oligarchs. They have kind of crumbling governments. Don't they have a lot in common?
Well, Ukraine was very much like Greece, with oligarchs, a non-functioning government, a bureaucracy that was in many ways using its position for private gain rather than to serve the people. Greece resembles, has many similarities to the old Ukraine, but there is what I call a new Ukraine, which is determined to be to get rid of all the rottenness of the old Ukraine. And that's the new Ukraine that Europe has difficulty in recognizing. And so that's why they treat Ukraine like the old Ukraine, or like Greece.
And what's the difference? I mean, what makes the new Ukraine new?
Well, it's really basically the rise of civil society that spontaneously rebelled against a continuation when the association agreement was offered, and then Putin outbid the European Union, which wasn't very difficult, and offered $15 billion, and Yanukovych then made a deal with Putin, and the people then rebelled. They went to Maidan and they protested, and Putin said to Yanukovych, before you get your first $3 billion, you've got to get rid of those people in Maidan. And basically ordered Yanukovych to use force. And this was a fatal mistake on the part of Putin that he's now trying to remedy as best he can, because he simply, it's not within his view of the world to believe that people will actually act spontaneously and even risk their lives for a political cause.
We'll get back to the absurdity of Canadian federal politics in a moment. Just a friendly reminder to smash the like, hit subscribe. Please leave a comment below if you have something to share. Let's get back to the nutty video.
This was, for me, quite an experience to see this, and I didn't realize actually how big an effect it has had over a 25-year period, because those were students. 25 years later, they were leaders.
So, George, the way you describe Ukraine, and you know that's where my own sympathies lie also, is incredibly appealing. It maybe is another one of these fantastical objects. But not all Europeans agree with us. The leader of your own homeland, Hungary, has described Putin as a model, as a role model. We have political leaders across Europe. We have the Greeks right now making trips to Moscow. We have in France, Marine Le Pen having close contacts with Putin. How do you explain this influence, this appeal that Putin has in Europe?
Yeah. Well, I think I can take a historical perspective, because I was very much involved in the collapse of the Soviet system. That was my debut as what I call myself a political philanthropist. And this is déjà vu for me. But there are some fundamental differences between now and then, because then it was a collapsing, a moribund Soviet Union that really collapsed of its own weight. And you had the European Union emerging. It was as you call it, a fantastic object that was very, very attractive. I was really, and I still am, a great believer in that idea. So that's the big difference, because now you have a resurgent Russia, a country that has gone through a great deal of, you had basically a revolution and a restoration. And the restoration brought about a new form of more or less the same kind of regime, but it has instead of a kind of an international universal thing, it's based on nationalism. And in fact, it's sort of two roots. One is sort of ethnic, the exceptionalism of the Slavic race, and Holy Russia. So this is a more, it's a new ideology and very effective. And it's based on a lot of resentment. In that respect, it's resembling interwar Germany, basically the Nazi regime, which was also nationalistic and also based on resentment. And it's got considerable vigor.
Well, that's a very frightening parallel you've just drawn. You've spoken, George, and written about how Russia and Putin has the tactical advantage in his confrontations. Why is that? And is there any way to shift what's happening on that chessboard?
Well, Putin is definitely the initiator, but he's acting out of a weak position, and one should not, although he's temporarily successful, one should not ignore the fundamental weakness of that regime, which is basically an exploitative regime. It's a small clique of people are basically using their position as rulers to, well, earn rents, if you like, collect tributes, and have an ideology that gets support, but basically exploiting the people.
Canada's broken, and Canada's broken because we're stupid. Okay? Canada's broken because we're stupid.
Canadian federal politics are absurd. We're going to stick a fork in that video. It's over. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Please leave a comment below if you have something to share. Enjoy this playlist. Check out this video. We've got lots of things to watch. Aaron, Canadian Looney. We'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. Ciao for now.